So you think you're a self-respecting car buff, or maybe you don't. And whether you think you know, or you don't know anything about cars, it's okay. Listen, I sure don't, and claiming the fact that you actually know everything there is to know about cars means that you don't. And that's why you're watching this video, because I put together a list of everything that you absolutely have to know about automobiles. No excuses, none at all. I'm gonna start with the easy ones and end with the ones that, well, even a pretty good enthusiast doesn't know. And if you're new here, my name is Brad Danger. Hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. It's great to see you guys again. Let's go. Let me set the stage. You're sitting there in the left lane and all of a sudden your heart pops out of your chest. Why? You see an LEO or law enforcement officer that's setting up shop on the side of the road. Now, when you're driving, even if you're not even going over the speed limit, you should always be looking out for cops. Usually they're in Ford Crown Vics, Chevy Impalas, Dodge Chargers, and even SUVs. And take it from me, Google each and every one of them and study the headlights and taillights, because you want to be able to see these not only during the day, but also at night. If they're marked, the easiest way to spot them is they usually have a couple extra antennas, steelies for wheels, and usually some sort of livery on them. And I can't recommend enough a radar detector, as well as using the app Waze to be able to see them before they can see you. Now, there's also unmarked cop cars, and these usually have lights built into the grills, and they're a lot harder to spot. The two things I look for when I think it's an unmarked cop car, one is the antennas are usually a dead giveaway, and two, they'll usually have municipal license plates. And if you're gonna get above the speed limit in your car, truck, or SUV, or hoopty or whatever, well, you need to know the difference between horsepower and torque, or torque. Luckily for you, there's an easy way to think about it. Horsepower is how fast you hit the wall, while torque is how far you take the wall with you. And if you're a true car enthusiast, you should know how to recover from a spin. Yeah, personally, I think that this should be part of your driver's test, but it's not. And anytime things get a little bit squirrely, you should not only know how to ride out the slide, but also enjoy the ride. If you don't know how to do this, I suggest finding a safe private parking lot somewhere in Mexico and learning. It's a lot of fun, and once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty easy to get out of a slide. So let's slide into the next and probably one of the easiest ways to tell if you're actually talking to an enthusiast when you're talking to them about their car. Refer to their car with their chassis and engine code. Yeah, so if you're talking to somebody with a 2006 M3, say, hey, I like your E46 M3. Nice S54. E46 is the chassis code, S54 is the engine. And lucky for you, you have this secret little weapon right in your pocket. It's called an iPhone.
Hello.
Pull up Google and search for what the engine and chassis code is for the car you're talking about. This is just an extremely easy way to see if you're talking to an enthusiast or just a regular civilian. And whether they're either, one of the things a true enthusiast always knows how to do is fix anything with either zip ties or duct tape. There's nothing wrong with being a MacGyver and just MacGyvering it. You can pretty much fix anything with those two tools, and as long as you put your creative mind to it, there's no stopping what you can do. Except you should be using neither of those when you're doing your own oil. Now, I wanna see a raise of hands. How many of you actually know how to change your own oil? Let me know down in the comments. Because personally, I think it's an absolute requirement that you change your oil yourself. Not every single time, but maybe every other time. And you should never, and I mean never, take it to a quick lube place. There's that saying, you get what you pay for, and guess what you do. And with that quick lube place, which actually costs a lot more than it should, they'll do things like not change your oil filter, and even use lesser quality oil to save a buck or two. The easiest way to do it yourself is buy those cheap ramps on Amazon, and within an hour, you should be able to do it yourself. So, I don't want to harp on it too much more, but oil is really the most important thing in your engine.
Generous amount of volleyball.
If you run out of it, you are straight f***ed. And your safety is the oil light, but when the oil light comes on the dash, that usually means you're already extremely low on oil. So do it yourself, know it's done right, and also get a torque wrench because there's no way to estimate the tightness by hand. And while you're in the garage doing your oil, learn how to jump a battery. It takes 5 minutes to memorize and $10 for a pair of jumper cables. And once you get the dead car started, make sure you run it for at least 30 minutes so that the battery charges in it. And while we're on the topic of dead cars, anytime your car is dead, you're gonna need to jack it up. And there's a right way and a wrong way to do this. Specifically, if you put a jack under your oil pan, it is the perfect way to transfer all of your oil from the engine to the floor. And thankfully, I'm not speaking from experience, but that is a costly mistake. Now, with jacking your car up, there's different spots for each car. So consult an owner's manual or check out YouTube University, and you'll find the proper jacking points, which will save you a lot of time and money. And while your car's up in the air, well, you need to know how to change a tire. It seems like ever since the introduction of run flats, less and less people actually know how to change a tire. And I think it goes without saying, if you're a car guy, there's no excuse to not knowing how to jack up your car and change a tire. And not only that, but there's so many people, even enthusiasts, that don't know how to properly check tire pressure. It sounds like such a simple thing. And guess what? It is. All you gotta do is buy a tire pressure gauge, quickly put it on top of the nipple, and voila, you know how much air pressure is in your tire. Remember, for your automobile and tires, there's a range of what is optimum for tire pressure. It's just as bad to have too much air in it as it is to not have enough. And by having the right amount of tire pressure, not only is your fuel economy gonna go up, but your smiles per mile is gonna go up as well. And if you have the right tire pressure in your car, your mechanic is gonna be pretty impressed. And this shouldn't be just any old Joe Schmo off the street. You wanna find somebody that has mechanical empathy, somebody that actually cares about you and your car. And there's a couple of ways to find an ideal mechanic. One is ask friends or family. The second is go on Yelp and type in German automotive mechanic. I've had really good success with both options. Just remember, you get what you pay for, especially when it comes to having a mechanic. And so the cheapest isn't always the best. And if you're watching Ideal Media, I would think that you would know how to drive a stick. And if you want to support the manuals, this is an incredible and one of our best-selling tees. Go check it out up here. And the reason you want to learn how to drive a stick, even if your automobile isn't one, is because there is going to be a situation that you find yourself in where you're the only one that's able to actually drive one. Otherwise, you're going to have to leave the car. This could be at a party and you're the only one that's able to drive, or you go look at a car with your friend that drives a stick. Your friend ends up buying that other car that's also a stick, and now, well, you got to drive one of them home. Plus, this should go without saying, girls like guys that know how to row their own gears.
Oh, I just got a lot with one and see who can't find it. Don't wait there, but
And if we travel back in time to the first thing that we mentioned about cops, and you do find yourself in a situation where you do get pulled over, well, you need to know what you should keep in the glove box. Things like your insurance information, registration, a flashlight, even a first aid kit are things that should fall out of your glove box when you open it. Okay, maybe my glove box on my 911 doesn't work that well because stuff always falls out for some reason, or it's just overstuffed. Plus, I mean, when you think about it, it's called a glove box, so maybe some driving gloves should fall out of it as well. But that's up to you, unless you don't know how to parallel park. Then you don't deserve driving gloves, right? There are so many bad parallel parkers out there that when I walk downtown and someone's trying to parallel park, I just sit there with YouTube girlfriend, pull out a bag of popcorn that I didn't even know I had, and I just watch them. Attempt after attempt after attempt. There are so many bad parallel parkers that some people, even if they fit in the spot, just leave. And their tail is definitely between their legs. Luckily, it's pretty easy if you know what you're doing. I know we have a lot of speed demons as subscribers here, so if you're going faster than traffic, pass on the left. I wish every driver in the world would watch this. Well, at least in America, because we all drive on the right side of the road, not the wrong side, because America. But if you're not intending to pass another car in front of you, stay in the right lane. It just makes the flow of traffic so much easier. And if you ever find yourself driving at night and you want to do one of the easiest DIYs to your car and get your hands dirty, well, being able to change your headlights or taillights isn't too hard and can make a vast improvement. If your bulb burns out, it shouldn't take more than 10 minutes to replace it with a new one. And if you're not able to see far enough ahead at night, upgrading your headlight output will make your car much safer on the road. And sometimes it's not not actually your headlights that are the reason why you can't see on the road at night. It's actually because they turn yellow due to the UV rays and the pollens, and your lights can't penetrate through all that filth. So, as an enthusiast, you should know how to restore your headlights. And believe me, because I actually did it, and here is exactly how to do it. It's one of the easiest ways to make your car look a lot more expensive. Here I am 6 months later, and it's probably the second best thing that I've done to the 996 911, because the first was replacing my wiper blades. Yes, it sounds so trivial, but your wiper blades, when it starts raining and they don't work, that really sucks. They're really easy to replace, and don't skimp on some cheap ones. Get the more expensive ones. And also, my personal trick is I always use Rain-X. It's like magic. When it's freshly applied, there's times where I don't even have to use the wiper blades when it's raining. And that literally will trip out your passengers that don't even know what Rain-X is. It's pretty mesmerizing to watch as well. And of course, I'm an enthusiast just like you guys, and make sure you learn about your own car. Read about it on forums, join Facebook groups, and heck, read your owner's manual. Learning about your own car is the first step in being a well-rounded enthusiast. Now, let me know down in the comments, what did I miss? What does every enthusiast need to know that they don't? Also, another thing that every enthusiast should do is hit that subscribe button. If you already have, thank you. And if you haven't, my name is Brad Danger. This is Ideal Media. And as always, keep living that ideal lifestyle.